Welcome. This is the Drupal usability meeting for July 28th, 2023. I'm Benji Fisher, moderating and sharing my screen. And also present are Aaron McHale, Emma, Lucas Fisher, and Ralph Kohler. So no one has any particular issues they want to discuss today. So let's look at the list of things we've carried forward. Yeah, actually, this one at the bottom, maybe I always get in trouble when I predict that something will be a short discussion, so I won't make any predictions. But let's have a look at 3376314. Remove the username and password descriptions from, oh, this has already been fixed. No point in discussing it now.
Yeah, it might be a really short discussion.
Yeah, so I think if I just bring this image, open image new tab, there we go. So I think the issue is just about removing that help text, enter the password that accompanies your username, which, like, I think the idea is that no one needs to be told that, so let's stop telling them. Okay, so scratch that one. So I don't think we have anything new to say about organizing the administration menu. The appearance page is too long and confusing. I think really the admin UI team led by Christina has taken that one over. I don't know that the usability input is needed at this point. Install and uninstall modules page. Aaron, shouldn't we remove this item from the agenda by now? Like,
yeah, I may have forgotten to remove it. Let me double yeah, because we did let me double check. That one was the one we postponed, wasn't it?
Yes, it was
Yeah,
the
we
postponed
did.
one.
Yeah, okay. I don't know why I must have just accidentally forgotten to yeah, remove it when I was copying list over, so that's fine. I'll remove that one. But yeah, we could maybe like try and tackle some of the ones that have been carried forward with some notes.
yeah, shall we just go to the next one on the list, the placement of batch progress messages?
Sure.
And we looked at this 7 months ago, 8 months ago. So this is placement of batch progress messages. For the sake of the recording, it's issue 2569785. Let's have a look at this screenshot. And maybe also this other one. That screenshot is not all that useful. Here we go. So I recognize this. This is specifically when you are doing a migration from Drupal 6 or 7 using the user interface. And this is the sort of, well, this is a screenshot of the progress message that you get. So there's a bar at the bottom indicating some measure of what fraction of the process is done. And then all of these messages saying what parts have been processed. So maybe now, I guess there are 4 sections, a label, a track, a percentage, and a description. I guess those are somehow, the progress bar is one of those, and the list here is another of those. I'm not sure what all four are, but let's see. Problem motivation. When running an upgrade via the UI, progress messages are displayed above the progress bar rather than below it. 20 messages are displayed before scrolling off the screen. I had thought this was an intentional Drupal 8 change, but apparently not. They should be below. We're not doing anything to try to achieve this, so we need to figure out why it's happening. Mike Ryan states in number 4, the positive side of having 20 messages on the screen. Quote, I think the context is helpful. Otherwise, most migration results will disappear before it's possible to see them. I did include this to get feedback, so there's a -- so far ... I guess he's referring to this little ellipsis at the bottom. So the screenshots, this shows the behavior. The text is being output to the progress label div that is above the progress bar instead of the progress description div below the progress bar. Okay. And the comment number 2, Mike Ryan rather optimistically tagged it as a novice issue. I don't suppose anyone remembers discussing this last November.
Nope. Although apparently I commented on it. Don't remember that.
This comment down here.
Yeah. Oh, I was just noting it for review. Okay, never mind.
Yeah. Current task is to answer the questions in the issue summary problem/motivation section. I guess this comment here, the other pages in the UI have received attention, not this one. It would be good to have a UX review of some kind to answer the question, what should be displayed on that page? The output is rather different than the install screen, so they should match as closely as possible. Do people want to see 20 messages so they can see the results? Is some context. So, Emma, you've unmuted yourself. Did you want to say something?
I was gonna ask, like the screenshot you shared showed that everything was working well, but what happens if like something isn't? Do you, because that list just says stuff has been upgraded, but would you, I think it would be useful if you were upgrading to see if something wasn't working well so that then you could kind of address it. But I don't know enough about the issue, but that's just a thought.
Yeah, the way it works, you can't, I don't think there's any way to interrupt the process once you've started it.
Okay.
So at the end of the process, you will get some links to the log messages, so you can investigate whether there were any problems. I think that if you give me a minute, I can actually set up a migration and we can see this live. Shall I do that?
Yeah, that would, well, it would be helpful for me because I'm not that familiar with the issue, but yeah, others might have more experience of this.
Yeah, I think that'd be useful to see.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to kill that umami site that I set up and instead install just the standard profile. And Install the migration modules. And I also have a Drupal 7 site running. I think at this point, the same link should still work if anyone else wants to log in, and the username and password are admin. And then if we go to, is it configuration development? Upgrade. You'll only see this once you've installed all of the migration modules. So migrate Drupal UI. I've already configured a bunch of stuff in settings.php, so I get sort of a simplified version of this form. View the upgrade. Content may be overwritten on your new site. That's okay because this is a fresh install of the standard profile. We've talked about how to indicate these warning messages. Button with lots of text probably isn't the best way, but anyway. I guess these modules used to be in core, but were removed in Drupal 10. And there's a long list of things that will be upgraded. So if I submit this form, then we should start to see something like this screenshot. Any questions before I hit the button? Any questions about the context? I guess probably more people are going to be doing this over the next few months and have already started since the Drupal 7 end of life announcement. Whoa, that was quick. You didn't see that very long.
Sorry, I blinked.
Well, don't worry, we're recording it. You can go over it later on slow-mo.
Literally looked away from my screen as you said, whoa.
So here's the message. Completed 70 upgrade tasks successfully. Congratulations, you upgraded Drupal. And review the detailed upgrade logs. Let me open that in a new tab. We get all of these messages. So the log messages have basically what we would have seen on that screen if we hadn't blinked. There's one error. So let's actually just look at least warnings. Just 2 errors. So, okay, so one thing is that, well, I guess the Drupal 7 site I'm using has very little content on it. So, in a real migration, it would stay. You would see that progress screen somewhat longer, but one takeaway is that all that information is in the logs, so it is not lost. So I guess I'm still getting the default homepage from the Olivero theme. So if you didn't blink, you would have seen something like this. There were a total of 70 items. A lot of them are configuration things that only have one config item. That's why body field display configuration processed one item total. So those things happen pretty quickly. If you had 100 nodes or 1,000 or 10,000 nodes, that would take somewhat longer to process. So would it make sense to have the progress bar at the top, which I think is the main suggestion of this issue? Or does it not matter? Do you care whether things scroll up or scroll down? Ralph, go ahead.
For me, actually, it wouldn't matter, the position. At the moment, there are more or less 3 areas of interest. You have the first line with your currently upgrading comment type with the upstepping number 41 of 80. Then you have underneath at the bottom, you have the toolbar where you see if basically the process is moving on a fast migration like yours. It really doesn't matter. But if you have a long running one and which might get even stalled, then if there isn't some sort of progress bar, then it's for me and some sort of indication if something is still working or not. And then you also have the list of processes in between where past processes and failures are listed as well. So visually you have to jump in between. For me, I try to stay in control, and if such a process is running, I'm worried that something gets stuck or an error, and therefore I'm jumping if something changes. And I have 3 points of interest where I change visually in between and jump in between, and that was challenging. So for one, moving maybe the progress bar next to the currently upgrading comment type line would be one good thing. And one other thing, I wonder, is it really necessary to see the success messages if you see them anyway at the end in the log files? And wouldn't it be more of interest to just maybe show the failures or processes that failed to process? That is one thing I wonder.
Okay, so you basically have 2 suggestions. One, put the progress bar at the top. And that's
or move the currently upgrading it. Move basically the status line and the progress bar next to each other, wherever they are placed.
So you're suggesting separating the currently running one from all the ones that have gone before as a possibility. So, for example, you might have the list of all the ones that have finished, and then the progress bar, and then the one it's currently working on. And then the other thing you're suggesting is that we don't even bother to show the ones that finished cleanly.
Yeah.
Once they've finished, we show the currently running one, and we show any that have errors or warning messages.
Yeah.
that have finished. I think those are reasonable ideas. I mean, the scope of the current issue, Mike Ryan did tag it as novice. Might be just the position of the progress bar. And Aaron, you're giving a thumbs up. I'm not sure what you're giving thumbs up to.
Just everything. I think like actually I really agree with what Ralph said around if we don't show the successful, like the log of successful ones, if there are warnings or errors, it would make it more obvious to people just, you know, that one has occurred. Because right now it could be so easy for them to be buried in all amongst all the success ones. And obviously you could go look at the log later, but it might be like easier for people to know, you know, upfront during that process. Particularly if it's like a long running migration, maybe well, fortunately we didn't get a chance to see a long running migration, but I imagine that you might be, you know, if it's one that takes like 5 or 10 minutes or something, you might be watching it, or you might look away for a bit, as I did just there, and look back, and then maybe you see an error or a warning, and it's good to maybe see those be more obvious.
So, how does this sound? We recommend as a first step putting the progress bar at the top, and that will make it right next to the currently executing task. And then we recommend as a second step, possibly on this issue, possibly in a follow-up, that we don't show status messages for things that upgraded cleanly, which in this screenshot at least, and in my sort of trivial migration is most of them, that we only show things with warnings or errors. And I would say that if we do that, then we don't just limit it to 20, because once we have the progress bar in the current one at the top, let's just fill up the bottom of the screen and scroll off the bottom of the screen, and even if there are 100 or 500 error messages, keep them all. Does that sound reasonable? Aaron likes it.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Ralph, go ahead.
The only thing I wonder is if the progress bar is moved to the top, then you have the currently running process status indicator, and underneath you have the list of failed processes with warnings or errors. How is it from a readability perspective? If you have, let's say, 1,000 processes and 100 fail, and if those lines are added underneath, is the page scrolling with it, and you get the progress indicator on top out of sight, or how is the visual presentation in that case?
Good question. So I think in general, the way batch processes work is by successively reloading, right? It's not an Ajax refresh. It's successively reloading the page. And that's sort of the point of the batch process, is that there are limits to how long a PHP process is allowed to run. So you reload the page, you start a new PHP process. So there is a full page reload every few seconds. And since it is a full page reload, you'll always end up at the top, and we'll always see the scroll bar and the currently running process. Does that sound right? And that's what you want, right?
Yeah, I think, yeah, it should be okay. Now, but I wonder if you have someone following along, sitting next to the screen and watching, that way the person has to scroll down, and then it gets reloaded again. If maybe the display order for that list, instead of the oldest at the top and the newest at the bottom, to have it the other way around, if that would make sense.
I think it's
would be too
already the other way
confusing?
around.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's most recent at the top.
Okay, then it's all fine. Then I have
Yeah.
no complaints.
And that's why we have the ellipsis at the bottom. The older ones have
Okay.
truncated, and then the current one is
finished.
right at the top, and the recently finished one is just below it. Pretty sure that's the way it works.
Yeah, I was thinking something like that, but then realized that like, well, the current one is at the top, so it must be in that order. Although part of me does feel a bit weird to me that it is in that order, because I'm just so used to like seeing things in a terminal, and everything goes from like the newest thing is at the bottom when you're in a terminal, right? So but I'm probably like not a good person in that sense to like I guess to think about this, because this could be like, you know, a site builder or somebody doing this, and I think it makes a lot of sense to have the most recent one at the top and then have the progress bar there. So
Do we want the progress bar in between the current process and the errors and warning messages? I think we probably want some sort of visual separation between the current one and the others. It might be a simple H rule. The progress bar would be a pretty noticeable separation between them. Go ahead, Ralph.
Yeah, using the progress bar as a divider would be one option, but I wonder, would it make sense to wrap the currently running process and the process bar inside some sort of field set, and have the running or the warnings and errors underneath them? That way that's also visually separated that way with some sort of field set. Might be more striking that way and more clear.
So I would say you're getting into questions of design, and that as far as usability is concerned, it doesn't matter whether you use a simple horizontal rule or put them in a field set. Either way, you're providing some distinction. So I think those are equivalent from a usability point of view. And I wouldn't want to, basically, I would leave it to the judgment of whoever is implementing it or whoever's designing it. Let me see whether the back button will work. Oh, it gives me just this one. Oh, well.
but we do see that the current, you know, that initializing text appears below the progress bar, which I was trying to think back to like, what is, you know, what is this normal way that a batch the batch process interface displays, and I think that's correct. So I would want to try and also keep it visually similar to other batch like processes. I don't know how much this is, I'm assuming this is the same as any other batch process in terms of how it's implemented, but yeah, maybe there's a value in having consistency there.
Right. Okay, so I think I can leave a comment. And step one is just change the order, put the progress bar at the top. That'll be consistent with other batch processes. And it will make it easier to move your attention from the progress bar to the current one. And then step two will be to show all errors and warnings, but not status, not all info messages for completed processes. So don't limit it to 20, show all of them, but only show warnings and errors with some visual separation between the current one and all of those. Sound good? I'm getting a couple of thumbs up. Okay, great. We have consensus. And we'll be able to take that one off our list.
Yay.
We have 20 minutes left. I'm just looking at all of these comments on the next one on the list, thinking that maybe that's an indication that 20 minutes won't be enough. And this next one, password suggestions are hidden from screen readers. That sounds pretty simple. Shall we look at that one next?
Famous last words.
That isn't that simple. I've wrote that issue up.
Yeah, I wonder actually if the one at the very bottom could be a fairly straightforward one, the improve search settings help text. Again, I've not looked at the issue, so take that with a pinch of salt. But
oh, okay. And we have it listed twice. So if we
do,
yeah.
Oh, I wonder what. Oh no. I wonder what that was supposed to be.
Okay, so improve search settings help text number 463106. Ooh, that's a 6-digit number. So this is from 2009. Ralph Allen, do you want to lead the discussion?
Yeah, I can. I'm just also the first time looking at this. So I guess let's see. Okay, so problem motivation for this is to improve the search settings help text. So you go to admin config search pages to view the page, and propose resolution. There's 3 points here. Shorten the label in the indexing throttle section. Do not mention cron again. The second one, remove the second link to the cron configuration page, same section. And third one, shorten the text and remove italics from the default indexing settings section. And there's some screenshots below. And it is quite an old issue actually. So
This sounds familiar. I think we've talked about this in the not too distant past.
I see it's been tagged. I don't see any review comment on it. So Although you actually, Benji, you did comment on it. Your comment was the most recent one, but I don't think it was from a review.
What did I say? Okay, so Eric, by the way, keeps apologizing for not attending these meetings, and he will join us when he can. But let's see, here I have the live page. So what are the parts we're proposing to change?
Yes, the first one was to shorten the label in the indexing throttle section. Do not mention cron again. Wonder if you.
So it's this label, I think, number of items per cron run.
Yeah.
Is it shorten the label or shorten the description? It's shorten the label.
The description is shortened. The label is the same. Oh no, per cron is left out as well. Oh, sorry.
Let's have a look at this after screenshot. And I'm going to zoom in a bit. Okay. So number of items to index per run rather than number of items to index per cron run. So it's removing the word cron from that label. And then the description is shortened. So, wait a second.
It's moving to indexing run instead in the description.
Yes, the maximum number of items processed per indexing run. If necessary, reduce the number of items to prevent timeouts and memory errors while indexing. Some search page types may have their own setting for this. And I think that's what I'm referencing in my comment at the bottom, right? The biggest change is replacing this text with this text. No, actually, that must be in a different section.
That's in the default indexing settings section. That one, yep.
So it's this description text that's being replaced with something simpler. Default indexing settings, this single line. So yeah, so let's look at that comment I left. So this text is rather long, and we're replacing it with something about half as long. So the question is, are we removing anything important? And this was only a month and a half ago. I only vaguely remember doing this. And I guess I was trying to sort of groom an issue for one of these meetings. So the current text, search pages that use an index may use the default index provided by the search module, or they may use a different indexing mechanism. These settings are for the default index. And then in italics, changing these settings will cause the default search index to be rebuilt to reflect the new settings. Searching will continue to work based on the existing index, but new content won't be indexed until all existing context has been reindexed. New paragraph, the default settings should be appropriate for the majority of sites. So that's a lot of technical detail. And the suggestion is to say, changing these settings will cause the default search index to be rebuilt to reflect the new settings. Searching will continue to work based on the existing index, but new content will not be indexed until all existing content has been reindexed. So that is basically the part in italics. So keeping the part in italics, that the italics are there presumably because whoever wrote this text thought that was the important part. That's why they put it in italics. And so the suggestion is to keep just that part and remove the rest.
Can you show again the screenshot, maybe?
Sure.
The only suggestion I would have for that text is maybe create a third sentence, meaning searching will continue to work based on the existing index period. New content will not be indexed until all existing content has been re-indexed. Maybe that way you have a bit shorter sentence.
So instead of
Actually,
combining two clauses with a but, just make it two
Yeah.
separate sentences. I'm sorry, go ahead.
actually, I mean, maybe we simply remove it, the whole thing, because it's kind of clear when you change a setting that this will be applied on the next run. I mean, or else we should maybe add help text in each of these sections. I think it's like, it doesn't add really value, it just confuses people. I think it's quite clear that changing the settings, you need to re-index. That's the cause. If you don't change something else, you don't have to re-index. Is that right? Can you scroll up?
I think it is important to warn people that if you change these, it will rebuild the search index. On sites that have a lot of content, that can take a long time to rebuild the search index. So some of the other settings, like the number of items per run, that's not going to trigger a rebuild of the search index. Whether or not you log searches. Whoops. Sorry. What did I do?
Just click again. I think you just zoomed it in.
All right, thank you. Whether or not I log searches, that's not going to clear out the current index. Adding a new search page is not going to do that. So it's
yeah, that's right. So my comment to remove it is not a good idea. But then the main point is really like, oh, if you change this, you have to rebuild the index. That's it. Whether it's default or not, this is like very advanced things. I don't know. Just thinking loudly.
yeah, that's good. And yes, calling it default index settings, maybe with that you don't need to say this first sentence, that search pages that use an index may use the default index, or they may use a different indexing mechanism. Maybe all of that is redundant because it's implicit. It's suggested by the word default. That these settings are for the default index. Do you really have to say that when it's labeled as default index settings?
Yeah, so basically your suggestion in the ticket in the last comment is very good. I think we should simply set that. From the changing these settings will cause blah, blah, blah until has been re-indexed dot. Then I think it's a good solution. It would be better than now.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Anyone else agree, disagree?
I think it sounds sensible.
How about this last line? Do we have to tell people that defaults are reasonable?
I would remove it. With the argument you mentioned before, it's in the section title, it's referring to the default.
Yeah, it's not really adding anything, is it? The default settings should be appropriate for the majority of the sites. It's not.
I mean, certainly when I'm managing a site, and I don't have a strong opinion or a lot of knowledge about what the settings are, I am happy to keep the defaults and trust that whoever provided the defaults put some thought into them. And this is just sort of emphasizing that. Okay, so I guess we do like that change. We suggests an additional small change that we break this sentence up into two. And again, the importance of this is that this is the only section of the form that's going to clear out the index, and we want to alert the administrator to that fact. Okay, so that sort of answers the question I put in this comment. So we have now thought a bit about it, and we think it is a good idea. We have a few more minutes, so let's go back to the top and the proposed resolution. Shorten the label in the indexing throttle section and do not mention cron again. So I guess probably I'm responsible for that. This current 3 points in the proposed resolution, and maybe I should have made that 2 separate points. I think what I meant is that we're shortening the label. We're just removing the word cron, number of items to index per run. And then we are not mentioning cron in the description. So that's really a change to the label and a change to the description, which I should have made 2 points. And what does the screenshot show? Number of items to run, and then this text down here, the maximum number of items processed per indexing run. If necessary, reduce the number of items to prevent timeouts and memory errors while indexing. Some search page types may have their own setting for this. So that is basically this text, except that it's removing a reference to cron. And I guess the point here is that there are various ways to trigger the index, and you could use the built-in cron that comes with Drupal. but there are other ways you can set up the automated tasks. And so
Yeah. And I think like that cron is kind of a technical detail of the fact that it's a recurring task. Like you could be using, like you can run Drupal on a Windows server, and Windows server doesn't have cron. So like we probably should stop using the term cron in the UI generally, but so this is a good start.
okay, and any other opinions on that? Okay. And then remove the second link to the cron configuration in the same section. Okay, I guess that's what we were looking at. So I guess I did have 2 points, one for the label and one for the description. And then shorten the text and remove italics from the default indexing section. So I think, assuming that I did a decent job of summarizing the changes in the patch, I guess we basically approve of all of them.
Just one brief question. In the user interface changes section 0.3 and 4 in particular, the 0.4, where is that with the italics? I'm not sure.
You're not sure what it's referring to?
Yeah, the italics does it refer to the content ranking section or where to find it in the screenshot?
So I assumed it was referring to the thing we were talking about before, that we're just keeping this sentence. And since that's the only part we're keeping, we're no longer italicizing it. But maybe content ranking is now sortable and italics are removed. So I have. And in fact, I think that's out of date. I think content ranking is now sortable, was implemented in some other issue.
Yeah.
Label content and users operations. Yeah, I don't see any italics there. I think that's what the italics are referring to.
Okay.
And we are running into the end of the hour. A minute left. Any further comments? Okay. I plan to be back next week, but not the week after. Aaron will moderate the meeting then. And see you then.
Nice weekend.
Thanks.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
joining.
Thanks,
Bye.
bye.